Thank you, Madam. I would like to give a brief introduction about today's session moderator, Professor Anjali Doimari, Madam. She is currently the head of the Department of English, Guwahati University. Madam's area of interest and expertise are African literature in English, contemporary South Asian literatures in English, translation studies, life writing, Bodo life and literature, literatures of the northeast of India. Professor Anjali Doimari has contributed significantly to Indian literature and particularly to Northeast India studies. Some major works are From Legend to Fiction, The Politics of Representation, a study of Indira Goswami's Thangfakri Tahsildar Tamor Torwal, and Vidyasagar Narjari's Birgo Srini Thungri, in literature from Northeast India beyond the center-periphery debate, edited by K.M. Baharul Islam, published by Rutledge. Weaving Magic with Words, Storytelling in Starine Kairis, When the River Sleeps, and Son of Thundercloud, in Gorima Kolita edited Reading India's Northeast Folktales, Literature, Society and Community, published by MRB Publisher. Reclaiming Woman's Voice, a reading of Mariamaba's So Long a Letter, in Unmasking Silence, Voice Heard and Unheard, edited by Mukuta Bora, published by Adi Publication, Jaipur. Translation of two Bodo stories, A Hen That Does Not Know How to Hatch Its Own Egg, and Hongla Pandit in Aruni Kashyap edited How to Tell the Story of an Insurgency, published by HarperCollins. Translation of Vishnu Prasad Rava's Bodo folktale, Maria's Ranjoholao, into English, The Call of Ferengadao, Select Writings of Vishnu Prasad Rava, edited by Madan Sharma et al., published by Kotha Publication. Narrating Ethnicity, Locating the Ethnic Self, in Jyotirmoy Pradhani and R. Singh edited Culture, Ethnicity and Identity, a reader, published by DVS Publishers. Idea of Evil Among the Bodos, Text and Context, in Prosenjit Bishwas and C. Joshua Thomas edited book, Construction of Evil, in Northeast India, Myth, Narrative and Discourse, published by CIS Publication, Los Angeles, London, and many others. So I would like to hand over this platform to session moderator, Madam Professor Anjali Doimari. Now the platform is yours, ma'am. You are kindly requested to initiate the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your introduction. All right, it gives me immense pleasure to be in conversation with Mr. Ayathurai Santham, and I have been in conversation via mail with him all this while. It was Dr. Vihanga Pereira who I contacted to come here for this festival, and because of prior engagements he couldn't come, and he suggested two names to me, and then he suggested the name of Ayathurai Santhan, and I picked his name because I was highly interested because he's a Tamil writer from Sri Lanka. We are familiar with I would let you know, sir, that as part of our syllabus, we have in South Asian literature, we do have Sri Lankan writers in English. So we are familiar, the writers that we are familiar with are mostly diasporic writers like Rumesh Kunasekara, Shyam Selvadurai, Michael Ondate. These are writers that we are familiar with. So when I read about you, I was sort of looking forward to speaking to you, to be in conversation with you, and you sent me your novel, Rails Run Parallel. So, and he sent me, I couldn't get the hard copy of the book, Rails Run Parallel, but he kindly sent me a soft copy, and I went through the novel, and it was such an experience actually reading the novel. So I would like to start the conversation asking sir maybe to talk a little bit about Rails Run Parallel. I think before that I should tell my audience here that he's actually an engineer by profession. He did his civil engineering and mechanical engineering. He was environmental engineering, and he has a distance education postgraduate degree in English. So basically, he's an engineer by profession, and he took to writing. So maybe to begin with, I mean, how do you think about taking to writing? And here I should also tell my audience that he started writing, creative writing, in 1966 in the Tamil language, and then he started writing in English from 1990. So maybe how you came to writing, sir, and then you started writing in English, and how did the switch to English happen?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, madam. First of all, I must thank the 4th International Kograja Literature Festival and Madam Daimari for inviting me and giving me this rare opportunity of meeting you all. And at this juncture, I must think of my friend Dr. Vihanga Pereira for suggesting me. He is an extraordinary person from Sri Lankan literary scene. And now Madam said that I am an engineer interested in literature. No, the converse is true. From my high school days, I was interested in literature, and while I was in the university, my first collection of stories in Tamil appeared. So only a writer turned into an engineer, it's not the other way. Okay. And originally, as I said, I wrote in Tamil. But with the development of the situation there, I hope that you all must be knowing the hardships we underwent. It was very unfortunate and pathetic. We know that you had a very bitter and hard past, but ours was much longer. We experienced a full-fledged war for 30 years, and I existed in that war. And the root causes for that war were very unfortunate. It was, first, I want to insist that it was not a war between the Tamils and the Sinhalese of Sri Lanka. It was a war between the hegemonistic government and the rebels who were exploited or who were looked down by the government. For example, just now I mentioned about my friend Dr. Vihanga Pereira. He belongs to the Sinhala community. I am a Tamil. But there is no such difference between us. We feel we are brothers. So there is no difference between Sinhalese and Tamils. And I have written a poem on that as well. So unfortunately, the war erupted and it continued for 30 years. The people in the north and east, they are Tamils, they speak Tamil, and they were undergoing so many hardships, including the ban on essential goods. So we didn't have fuel, we didn't have rice, we didn't have sugar or any food stuff, anything like that. I don't know whether you will believe or not. For our motor vehicles, instead of petrol, we were using kerosene. The kerosene which was allowed to light the lamps, lanterns. So we found out a mechanism to ignite the engine with a dropper, with a spoonful of petrol. And then we switched on to kerosene. And it was like that we managed for about 10 years. And with that, the bicycles were our blessings. We had one more advantage, our land, the north and east were very flat land, no undulations, no difference in levels. So it was easy for us to ride bicycles for any distance. So the bicycles and the kerosene operated motor vehicles, even the cars, my car, I converted into kerosene. Okay, I don't want to go into those details. So it was like that we existed. So at that time, some people who were alien to that setup, they started writing about the lives there. They didn't have any knowledge of the real situation. They didn't have any first-hand information, but they wanted to write. And they wrote some absurd things. So I thought, why shouldn't I try write something genuine, something factual? I am not worried about my English. I know a certain amount of English, I know, but the language was secondary. My full intention was to let our Sinhalese brethren to know about the plight we were undergoing. And at the same time, those in the north, you, our brethren in India, to know our plight. The Tamils in Tamil Nadu, they knew, but others, they didn't. So that's why I started writing in English. My intention was not to enrich the English literature. That was already rich enough. So so I wanted to reflect our lives to the world outside. So that's how I started writing in English. And I must tell you, I am happy. I succeeded. My Sinhalese brethren came to know, not because of me, there were some other efforts after that, after me, and they came to know the real situation and started writing in English. Only gave me an opportunity to come and discuss with you all. My books were already published in Tamil Nadu, in Tamil, and telling the hardships of Tamils among the Tamils is not going to take us anywhere. The outside world should know, I thought, so I started writing. Okay.
Okay, thank you. In fact, he has so many collections of works in English, like The Rails Run Parallel, and besides that, I think The Sparks is a collection of stories that he has in their own worlds, Survival and Simple Things, The Northern Front, The Whirlwind, The Path, and Other Stories, a collection in 2023. And one thing that strikes me on looking at your work is that, especially this particular, I've read just one novel of yours, it's Rails Run Parallel, which you sent me. Yes, so, which is short, say 95 pages. Yes. So what struck me is that even if I go by the collection, your collections, these are short story collections. So you have a tendency to write short fiction. Any particular reason for that choice, sir?
Very good, that's a good question. Actually, my first priority was for brevity. You know, maybe the professional training or anything, we don't design anything big unnecessarily when it can be designed economically. If we can build a column 6 inches by 6 inches, we will try to finish within 6 inches. So we won't build a column by 6 foot by 6 foot. The brevity, the bringing in the substance, the fact and everything within a brief a nutshell is a challenge, and that gives beauty and that gives density. When the volume decreases and the mass increases, that gives, it's like a lead shot. So I think some of you might have heard of Tirukkural in Tamil. Even our respected Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji used to mention about that. He has high regards for that. That is it's a classic. Although that was written in Tamil, that comes out with international truths. And there you find only within 1.5 lines, the poet is not a mere poet. The philosopher poet, he has come out with the deep truths, so the brevity. So someone compared that to the dewdrop at the tip of at the grass blade in the morning, which reflects a full sun. A dewdrop reflects a full sun. The Tirukkural was like that. Not that my stories are like that, but I took it as a challenge. And apart from that, I am a lazy fellow. I wonder at times how I became a writer, because I always find difficult to write. So I wanted to finish everything within a short account. So that's why I ended up in short stories, and they were ultimately the present shorts. Now there's a particular name for that, shorts, the short stories. So it was like that. Then after that, when I thought of the white canvas, I resorted to novels.
Okay, like you were saying that the experience in Sri Lanka is something I think that runs through in all your novels. So be it, I think, Rails Run Parallel and the other novels that you have, so which you write in 2 parts, the travel, okay? Especially in Rails Run Parallel, you have 1977 and 1979. Okay, so you have Sivan traveling from Colombo to Jaffna, and in part 2 you have him coming back from Jaffna to Colombo, and the diverse experience. Now, what I find very striking is that the violence is in the background, but still it comes so strongly. And I think what you look at is the people-to-people relationships. I think that comes out very strongly in your narrative. And yet, very subtly, in a nuanced manner, you do, I think, it speaks to the reader about, the unsettling nature of what's happening inside. I think that you bring out very beautifully. And when I talk about relationship that you're talking about, especially in case of Sivan in the novel, the fact that he had a Sinhala relationship, that sort of is left unsaid, all right, but he later on marries somebody else, all right, somebody belonging to his own community. Yes. And then again, I think in the bus with Ravi, the conversation between Ravi and Sivan, I think that also, like when Sivan says, like, why does he talk in Sinhala? The assimilation, which is silent assimilation, which is happening. Assimilation in the sense that it's a forced assimilation, I think. So maybe if you can talk a little bit about those nuances in the novel.
Sure. Now, first of all, I must admit one thing. I don't write anything out of my experience. I write only about my experiences, what I
There's something autobiographical in the novel, I felt.
So, in a way, I have to pay for that. There's no secrecy, nothing secret in my life. I write about everything, my even personal life, physical life, the social life, everything, because there's nothing personal in a human society. Everybody, they have the same feelings, same life. Only the outlook may vary. So I thought there's nothing to hide, and my policy is not to write anything out of my experience. So the reason for this is that I have written only what I knew, what I experienced. So in this case, I was a victim of the pogrom, anti-Tamil pogrom. So I escaped from Colombo. I was working there in Colombo, capital of Sri Lanka, and I shifted to my hometown, Jaffna in the north, and with my shifting, the civil war started. So the rebels, you must have heard of the Tigers, and the Sri Lankan army, that the war continued. So at that time, I got caught in that war. Not that I was really involved, but I was a victim. I was a part of the population. And then the IPKF came. So I had very bitter experiences there also. So I was a victim of all these unfortunate incidents. And I wrote about everything. And that novel Whirlwind is about my experience with the IPKF. And to tell you the truth, I was about to be shot thrice. Twice by the Sri Lankan army and once by the IPKF. Okay, by mere suspicion or by mistaken identity, but thank God, the God saved my life. So at that time I thought the God has saved my life just for me to give a chance to write what I experienced. So I told you the Sri Lankan army was about to shoot me twice. The first incident, they had mistaken me for a Sinhalese rebel. So they didn't know that I was a Tamil. So only after knowing that I was a Tamil, they allowed me to go. You know the irony, you know. So there were incidents like that. So when you start writing things you know firsthand, then your writing will be full of light, full of... Okay.
All right, sir. I think the other novel that I was talking about was Every Journey Ends, a novel of two journeys.
Yes.
I think that is also a novel of two journeys. Almost similar like Rails Run Parallel.
Yes. That Rails Run Parallel is... even that name indicates two things. The peace and enmity, the harmony and enmity, peace and the struggle nature, and the Tamils and Sinhalese, they have to run parallel. There is no deviation. They can't go. So the world is always with positive and negative. In the electricity, when you look at there are the positive and negative. Without two extremes, there can't be any function. So that's why in that Rails Run Parallel, one was before the victimhood, before getting attacked by the thugs of the riots, and other one after returning. The protagonist escapes those things, going back to his hometown and returning to the place where he was working, and the experience. There, after returning, there is no difference between his colleagues or anyone. But on the contrary, there were differences between the Tamils themselves, on the class difference, on the status difference, on the opinion difference. So that is human nature. And the second novel that you mentioned, that's Every Journey Ends, that's also about two journeys. One is in the 80s, during the time of Soviet Union. You must have heard of Soviet Union. Now Soviet Union is no more. Now it's known as Russia again. That was composed of 15 republics. At that time, I had a chance to go and proceed with my Russian language learning in Soviet Union. So at that time, I was given every opportunity by the Lumumba center there, but Sri Lankan government denied my visa. I was a government servant, and they said the only question they asked me was, why should a Tamil person go to Russia at that time? You understand? So Russia the Soviet Union is supposed to be a rebellious state. So why should a Tamil person go there? So they delayed. And those who spoke on behalf of me were my Sinhalese friends. You know, so that's the beauty. The government denied, but the Sinhalese friends, spoke on behalf, and they got the visa, and I went there late. And after going there, there are some personal experiences, and that story continues after coming, and the protagonist again coming to India to meet his former friend. So while coming, there is another earlier, now the Soviet Union is not there, but the Tamil identity remains. A Tamil person coming to India. Why? So there were a lot of suspicions between the northern east of Sri Lanka and the Tamil Nadu, the connivance, the relationship. There was nothing like that, nothing. But there, those who were in power, they suspected. So though this man was not affected directly, that agony made him suffer. That made him to have a agonized journey. So those are the
Okay, so we've talked about your fiction.
Yes.
Maybe we'll come to your poetry, because you do have a good collection of poetry. You have a selection of modern Sri Lankan poetry in English in 2006, and maybe you have more. And recently you sent me a poem.
Yeah.
So would you like to read that poem?
Yeah, sure.
Would you like to read it, or
Yes.
I have the poem?
I got, thank you. In fact, I thought of reading from my phone. Thank you. I will read it from this.
It's called The Bigger Match.
Yes.
Of
This
course, Sri
is-
Lankans love cricket. It's about cricket match, but yes.
I must tell the background of. No, first and foremost, I am a fiction writer. I am a prose writer. But at times, I resort to verse also, especially free verse. So this was a poem written by me in 1995. At that time, we were displaced. The people from Jaffna were displaced. We left all our homes, our lands, our belongings, my collection of books, my vehicles, left everything. And we went only with a bag. We kept a bag always ready with us to flee at any moment. In that bag, you find your educational certificates, your personal documents like birth certificate, identity card, and some bank passbook or something, some essential documents, and some urgent medications like that. That we always ready. You have to take it and go. And when the situation returns, you have to come. So at that time, we were displaced for 6 months, 1995. On that year, during that year, the Sri Lankan cricket team won the World Cup cricket. You must, those who are interested in cricket will remember that, I think. I am not a person basically not interested in cricket, though I was interested in football and other games. Not that because of that aversion. During that time, a friend of mine, he wrote me a mail, and that reached me after about 3 or 4 months. He expressed his happiness for the Sri Lankan team winning the World Cup. So I wrote him a reply. In fact, this is also true, this thing. So I was in fact worried about the Sinhalese youths and Tamil youths killing each other. So at the battlefield. So I didn't have, in fact, I didn't have time to think of cricket. So I wrote this as a poem. The bigger match. They always call the big match. So I said, this is a bigger match. As a Lankan, you should feel proud, wrote my friend, a cricket fan, an outlander, of your heroes' feats in the playing fields the world over. You too must be celebrating all those victories. No, friend, I am not one of that sort. Can't take interest in that sport, I reply. Neither have I time, nor the mood to indulge in such things. You know why? Instead, I worry about an unending game with no overs in my land. So in that, there is no overs in that ball. They were always ready to shoot